Hey there, it's Dominic St-Pierre. You're listening to Go Podcast. So, returning on this episode of last week, I've talked with Rock, the person I was talking about in that episode, and he was asking about why Go. I mean, what's good about Go? Why would someone or why an organization would choose Go? And since that time, I have seen this question a lot. I don't know why exactly, but maybe I just notice it a little bit more. But the point is, I've seen that. So before we dive into that, so I've launched I pre-launched my new course actually called Build a Google Analytics in Go. It went pretty well. So. Yes, I think it's a nice course. Will give the students a full website analytics at the end of the course and whatnot, and I'm using ClickHouse in that mainly. But before using ClickHouse, I show a little bit why Postgres might not be the right choice for this type of application and things like that. I mean, there's some TypeScript, there's some Go, of course, the backend APIs in Go, and also I decided to write the dashboard to view all the metrics. It's also a CLI in Go, actually. So, I mean, if you're interested, you can check it out. I have a link with a 50% discount during the pre-sale time in the show note of this episode. So, all right, let's return to our main topic. So, yeah, why Go? I mean, this is a legitimate question, I think, and programming languages, in my opinion, are mostly equivalent in some sense. They all are there to build things, and it's true that you can build mostly anything with almost any languages. There's not really one languages that can only do one thing. So that being said, I mean, yes, there are some languages that are better suited for things and whatnot. And so, yes, when I was asked about why Go, I mean, the reason I personally find Go attractive might not be super, evident or clear when I say that to someone. For me, Go is all about simplicity. It's all about, I know that if I build something in Go, it will be, it will still compile in 3 years without me having to touch anything. I fully trust the standard library of Go. It's just solid. But yes, so all of those reasons might not be very clear to someone, and until you have experienced it, I mean, it's not, you don't really know that you have a problem until you see the problem itself. So, people that are, I don't know, on .NET or Java, for example, they are building their systems. Everything is fine. I mean, they might not have any problem at all. So when you look at Go, and from a perspective of a language that do have lots of frameworks like .NET and Java and things like that, it might seems to be a little bit, I don't know, not non-attractive potentially, because now you understand that if X, Y, and Z does not exist, I will have to write it myself. I will have to hunt for a package, a third-party library that do that. And we all know about libraries and whatnot. So those are legitimate, legitimate,
'Cause, you know, those are legitimate, concerns, I would say. So, you know, 'cause, you know, those are legitimate, concerns, I would say. So, you know, 'cause, you know, those are legitimate, concerns, I would say. So, you know, 'cause, you know, those are legitimate, concerns, I would say. So, you know,
why Go then? Why Go? What would Go would be best to build actually? And it's very hard to answer that question, because at the end of the day, the best language for the job is probably the one that the person is already knowing and is already very familiar with. So it's true that Go it's not hard at all to get started with, and that's another plus. But that's another reason to pick Go. But it might not be clear, or at least someone that is not writing Go might not be understanding the benefits. The benefit of having a new developer on the team joining a Go project, and they are up and running after, I don't know, 1 or 2 days, 3 days, whatever, while someone joining a Java or .NET, and let's say that if we compare someone that hasn't touched this language, for example, so someone that never wrote a line of Go versus someone that never wrote a line of .NET or Java, the learning curve of those two, Java and .NET, is pretty steep. There is a huge standard library that you still need to absorb. There's a lot of concept in there, while Go, it's basically C, and there's not much concept at the beginning to understand. Of course, if you want to write very very performant code, and there's a learning curve for Go, but the initial quick wins is pretty fast. But yes, that's something I was starting to think about. Those are mostly, I don't know, small reason that when you start using Go, you kind of realize all the small things, the small problems that you previously had on your previously language or previous stack and whatnot. But until you really try it yourself, because we can say as well something like the tooling is very fast. You can compile your application, you can test your application. This is all great. It will compile big projects very quickly. But again, that is not a good reason to jump into Go for someone that does not really realize that when they press F5 on their Visual Studio application, it takes like 2 minutes before something happens and the application is finally starting. I mean, it's very hard to compare any kind of environment. So and now we are entering into the reason of it's good for cloud native, it's good for microservices, and you can just build simple service. But again, that also is very difficult to, I don't know, to imagine. Especially let's pick web application, for example. So if on the left side you would have web framework heavy languages like Python, Django, and Ruby and Rails, for example. So you cannot compare the two. It's not comparable at all. You cannot be. There's no way to tell a Python Django developer and tell them, what, Go would be better than that to build the application that you're building, because most often than not, using Django or Rails, you basically are building a CRUD heavy system or web application most of the time. In my opinion, this is not a good use case for Go. I've talked about that. I've done an episode on that. But the point is, it's very hard to give some good reason to to attract the developers that are used to a framework and say something like, well, you know what, you might be good with Go, and you know what, there's no framework, and you can just use the standard library, and now you will have to build the authentication, the authorization, you will have to build all the middlewares that you will need. So it depends so much on what they want to build and what are their goals, in my opinion. In this specific case, if it's for learning, this is great. I mean, the amount of things that a programmer is learning by just using a simpler language is very good. But if the goal is to ship something very fast, it's pretty hard to beat Django with the Django admin and the migration tool that they have and the ORM. So it's just not comparable. You are not, it's comparing apple and oranges, for example, because there's nothing to compare, to be frank. So for web application, I think Go is worth the shot, but I think it's really good when there's when the web application is very simple. So for example, the thing that I built in my course, for example, it's a website analytics. So the API is, at the end of the day, very simple. You are basically just receiving custom events and page views in a web API, and you do some stuff with the data, and you save that to basically one table. So this is a great use case for Go. Even if you're not really going to deploy that to the cloud, or there's no event driven, there's no microservices. It's just a good old API at the end of the day that receives some data and do something with the data, and it might return the data. In my case, I built a separate dashboard. Could this have been done with Django? Yes, but now we are entering into the side of, I don't believe that Django would have been performant enough to build such a thing, because in my book I wanted to make sure that people that do have, 20 million page views per year or per quarter, whatever, they are able to sustain that, and they could host multiple websites as well on the same application. So I mean, this is probably a good reason to use Go when you already know from the beginning that what you are building will involve a lot of data, and you might need a lot of processing power, or at least a lot of throughput in terms of either the data ingestion or the returning of the data and whatnot. So Go is really good. It's a good in between those dynamic language and something more like Rust or Zig that could be better at managing memory. But even Go does not really take much memory, and so it's a good middle ground in between. But is it going to sell someone or a team or an organization that Go is good? I don't know, to be frank. I mean, they first need to know that they have some problem with their current stack, that Go is good at preventing, or at least it's an improvement. If you compare with Node, for example, I would say Go dependencies management is way better than Node. The performance is greater. Just having a compile language versus a dynamic one, and don't get me started with TypeScript. TypeScript is not a compile language. It's just it's it's just something that is on top of JavaScript. I mean, it's not fixing anything at the end of the day. So I mean, I don't know what is the answer to that question. It is pretty hard. So if the adoption of Go pass with the obligatory reason to find a good reason for people to start using it, it might be difficult, because the thing that Go is good at, again, you do need to realize that you have those problems before accepting to test it. And once you start, heck, just the first time that you do the Go build, if you recall, when you start building in Go, I mean, that's the first thing. So to me, there were two things that was extremely refreshing when I started in 2014. First, creating my first project was basically an mkdir. So you just create a directory, you put a main.go file in there. That's it. That's all. There's no tooling that bootstrap a file structure and things like that. And to some people, this is scary. They want a structure, they want to know. But for me, it was like, finally, I mean, finally something that is just there and makes sense. You have files, you have directories. So that was extremely good for me. The next thing I realized is when you do your first Go build and this thing runs so fast. But it's not really a selling point to switch or to decide to build a system in Go versus something else. So you still need to either be curious about Go, which is totally fine as well. The desire to learn something new, or just to jump into another language. But all the benefits of Go is, I don't know, like the interface, you cannot really sell the interface. Really, you can talk about why interfaces are great and whatnot, but until the person really experienced it and just realize how simple and good it is, versus maybe they are on a object-oriented programming model, and now they do have they do have some realization that, wow, do I have too many level of abstraction currently with my current language? Is it really necessary to have all of these layers and things like that? So until they are ready to hear that, or until they are really finding that it's a problem, because they might just be fine. I was doing .NET in the beginning, from 2000 to 2010, something like that. So 10 years of .NET, and during that time, well, I was a Microsoft quote unquote fanboy. I love .NET. Today I still love C#. I don't really love .NET though. But again, it's almost the same thing. I've been told lately, oh, you know what, you should retry because it has changed a lot and things like that. But .NET to me did some bad things to me, and I just don't want that anymore in my life. And Go, after almost 10 years. I mean, it's just there. It did not bite me so far. So I mean, this is probably the biggest reason someone this could be the the most selling point of Go. But yes, I mean, it's still hard, and I don't know what's the answer for that, to be frank. It's until you test that. So how do we ensure that someone that is doing Java and .NET and Python and Ruby and whatnot, how can we tell that something like what, it's so touchy, because people are kind of super attached to their stack and languages, and with good reason. I mean, But myself, I prefer to be open. I do like Python, to be frank. I do like I said, I do like C#, and I would do that anytime if I had to. I mean, if so, but at the end of the day, there is some things that I prefer to build in Go. Something that I know. Anything related to data processing to me, anything related to, like I said, very, very simple web API that is extremely clearly defined, that basically do one thing. So I kind of see, the web application, or at least the web API that I'm building with Go, similar to what, the GNU core utils are basically. So try to just do one thing and do it very, very good and very efficiently, and that's it. So you deploy that, and it could be things that run on the corner for multiple years without anyone touching it, especially if there's no dependencies. I mean, wow, this thing can be there forever. And but can you build a fully monolith web application in Go? Yes, you can, of course. I mean, it's still very nice as well. But if I had to choose myself, depending on what I'm thinking of building, for example, I canceled my subscription to the platform where I was selling my courses for multiple reasons. But I decided to build it myself. Why not? I mean, as a programmer, let's not reinvent the wheel. But I mean, I wanted to do that, and this is how I learn. This is how I do things. I just write what I need to use myself, and anyways, this is what I like. But the point is, when I had to decide, should I do that in Go? Should I do that in Python or Django? I went with Python Django because I needed something fast. I needed something with the battery included. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Go is still my favorite, and will probably always be my favorite language of all. But I mean, for that situation, it was not the right choice, and it's fine. I mean, we should stop saying something like, oh, you know what, I'm switching to. You're not switching to another language. You are just learning a new language, learning a new stack, learning new things. Don't throw everything that you've done so far to the garbage just because you are testing something else. I mean, I wish that we stop using that word. It's pejorative. Is it an English word? It's negative for the old language. You're not leaving, and everything that you've learned so far is still very valuable. You can bring your baggage from language to language, and they are mostly all the same at the end of the day. I mean, it's not the syntax that is difficult. It's the standard library. So that is why .NET and Java, in my opinion, has a huge learning curve, because they have huge tooling, they have huge everything is big. So it's probably the Costco of all programming languages, whatever. I mean, you just everything is just maybe too much. But again, I mean, it's working, and it's fine for some reason. So what would you say the next time that someone asks you, why Go? I don't know. I just don't know. It's maybe ask them what are the problem that they are having with their current languages and current stack and whatnot, and try to fit some benefits of Go. That could be something. So instead of saying things that might not means anything to them, might be better just to try to see if Go is fixing their problem, and there's a good chance that it will. All right, on that, thank you for listening. I will not be posting for the Christmas time, I think, but I will be back on January. See you. Bye.